So, welcome to Backlash 2000, and we're going to be talking about the main event, which is The Rock with Stone Cold Steve Austin. But is he there? Is he not? Ooh, where's Stone Cold? Versus Triple H with Stephanie McMahon and Vince McMahon in his corner, and the special referee is the product of Vince McMahon's seed, Shane McMahon. And Vince refers to him as that himself.
Okay, that's a lovely thought for us this Sunday afternoon.
So yeah, I chose this match. You know, there's a lot of nostalgia. This Backlash 2000. So I had this on VHS. I'm showing me age, and I'm showing me age. So I watched this pay-per-view a lot because you forget in the days of the early 2000s when you couldn't just literally do whatever you wanted at any point in terms of watching stuff, as you can do now. You're like, let's watch this video of a wrestling pay-per-view I've watched several times. So this pay-per-view is really seared into my brain and has that pure nostalgia. But I nearly said porn nostalgia.
It's pornness.
No, I was going to say pure nostalgia, and then I started saying poor nostalgia, and then it sounded like porn nostalgia, pure nostalgia. I need to do some vocal warm-ups before I start these podcasts because
Dan's porn nostalgia. That is a separate podcast.
Aye, do you remember when they had nice big bushes? I wasn't around in the 70s. So yeah, the porn nostalgia of this match, of course. And then this pay-per-view is, in general, just remember very well. And then you got the whole narrative surrounding this pay-per-view. So Triple H got screwed. No, he didn't. He screwed The Rock at WrestleMania 2000. Vince McMahon turning on The Rock, hitting him with a steel chair for Triple H to retain his WWF title. He's still WWF at this point. They'd not got the F out yet. The World Wildlife Fund was still happy for them to be the WWF. So yeah, you got that whole Austin return tease throughout the show. And that's something really good about this because the whole show builds. The story is going throughout the whole show, and then there's a story throughout the whole match. And I think it's something that's sort of missing from current wrestling, to have like a story that just builds and builds and builds, rather than just having like a series of random matches. Had you seen this match before?
No, so this is something that's made this quite interesting for me. So I wasn't watching WWF in this era, as we've discussed before. So I would have still been watching WCW. And by the time I first really got into WWE, it was 2003. Stone Cold had retired. The Rock was really off in Hollywood at that point. So it's
in the money.
Exactly. And it's just the kind of era of wrestling that has really passed me by, that I have no real nostalgia or memories for Rock or Austin. Whereas like for so many people, they're like the biggest stars in the industry and like the people they would go back to. So for me, watching this with no nostalgia, I probably had a little bit of a different experience to you.
Yeah, less rose-tinted spectacle.
Yeah.
So we get into the match. We start with a promo with The Rock. He's got the guarantee of the guarantee of the guarantee that he's going to win. He doesn't care if Austin's there or not. He could be in Texas. He could be here. The Rock doesn't know.
I think you deliver it better than he did.
Oh, I was about to say, I think The Rock is good at promos, but yeah, maybe I am better than him. And then it was weird. So The Rock does that promo. They then play The Rock's music. They then stop The Rock's music, and Lillian Garcia introduces the match. And we get Shane out first, who's the special referee, doing a little dance. Weird for the ref to get an entrance. You know, they weren't giving Mike Chioda and Earl Hebner a reference.
No, but they do that on regular occasions for special guest referees. Okay. Dan, stop being facetious. What I liked about this,
hate the McMahon Helmsley faction.
Yeah, that's very fair. They are the villains of the piece. But what I liked about the entrance is Shane comes out to No Chance rather than like.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. So I was watching this and he didn't come out to.
Here comes the money.
Here comes the money. I knew it was money involved, and it was just kind of really, really weird seeing that and really jarring. And also that Triple H doesn't have the game theme tune coming out. Yeah. So for me, this is an era before I remember these characters and what their music is. So I'm just like completely
What?
alienated.
This isn't the Triple H I grew up with.
Exactly. It was a mindfuck, ladies and gentlemen.
Out comes Triple H first. He's the champion, so it's weird for the champion to come out first. He's accompanied by his wife, Stephanie McMahon, who is the women's champion, showing how much respect they had for the division at the time.
Well, she was the women's champion, which is,
at least
more
better
respect than calling it
Divas.
divas.
So he's there with his wife, Stephanie, and his father-in-law, Vince McMahon, who only a couple of months ago he was smashing in the face with a sledgehammer. Now they are best of friends. Vince gets on the mic and he says, just to let you know, there's a thing in the program, it always says, card is subject to change. Like, Austin's not here, Austin's not coming. And, really riling up. You do have that doubt in the back of your head. Is Austin coming or is he not? In terms of going to appear, not ejaculating. This has been a very raunchy show. JR says that this isn't going to be one of those terrible boxing matches that you pay for, where it just ends in the first round. It's a couple of seconds, and well, yes, JR, this is because this is fake.
Yeah, it's factually correct. That
yeah.
I mean, sometimes boxing matches going on a long time.
Yeah, I think maybe at this time there must have been a few high-profile matches that just ended in the first round. So this is better than boxing. It's completely different things. It'd be like if at the start of Supermarket Sweep, Ryland came out and was like, "This is going to be better than West Ham Spurs." And it's they're just different things, Ryland.
Yeah, no.
That's someone I'd like to see in the WWE. Ryland, I think he'd be a great wrestler.
And also, this is from a company that later gives us Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan.
In 18, yeah. They get very into short matches a couple of years later.
One of the things
that really stands out is how into it the crowd are. They're going mental from the first moment you see The Rock to once Triple H and the Rock are locking up. The crowd are just in the palm of their hands.
Yeah, they really are, and I think that's one of the things that I really noticed more than the actual. I guess we'll get onto it, but more than the actual quality of the match, it's the investment of the audience in the story that really drives this forward rather than anything else. And you can see, like you say, they've got the crowd in the palm of their hands.
Yeah, you've got those two narratives going on. You've got wanting to see Rock finally overcome the dastardly McMahon-Helmsley faction and win the WWF title. And you've also got the Stone Cold is potentially coming back. It'd already been seen on TV because he destroyed the DX bus. Because he hates buses.
Oh, so that I was going to ask you what the significance of this was, but now I know DX is kind of aligned to McMahon.
Yeah,
all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, which is one of those kind of things like you're saying about them not building stories these days. You don't have that many different pieces, factions, all kind of factions, and it all kind of pieced together in that kind of way. But I didn't know this at the time watching this, and I was just like, why has he come out with a bus? What's the significance of this bus? Did he just go on a wild rampage? But no, there's context. There's always context.
So DX had Triple H bought a bus for DX, or maybe Vince bought it for him, and it's called the DX Express. And it's one of those things. It was like Chekhov's gun, to use some narrative terms. Basically, they kept showing off this bus that the DX had. It didn't look that impressive. It was just a bus. It was it
was no Adam Rose's Exotic Express.
Exactly. But they just kept going on about how they loved their bus. And I was like, well, this does not bode well for your bus. And they were also talking about how Stone Cold wasn't going to show up. Then Stone Cold appeared and said something like, Stone Cold does what Stone Cold wants. Stone Cold is going to do what Stone Cold da-da-da. And then he dropped a big, cinder block or something on their bus, and it caved in. That is criminal damage.
Again, the fact that there's, in wrestling, there's only a very intermittent use of police on these kind of things. Sometimes they'll be there, other times they're just get on with it, mate.
Yeah, I mean, Stone Cold did that. He would, a few months later, which we will mention, have a match with Rikishi, which was no holds barred. And the match ended with Stone Cold getting arrested. And it's have you seen some of the other stuff that's been going on?
What about the bus?
What about the bus? Triple H drugged Stephanie McMahon and married her against her will. That's got to be illegal. Undertaker was crucifying people a couple of months ago. You're fine with that. Stone Cold basically, I think he banged a police car, and they were like, right, that's it. You're going into the slammer.
You know how with this podcast, you're trying to, in a way, sell me that wrestling is really great entertainment. There are brilliant things happening, and I try and tell you it's terrible and that there's so many ridiculous, nonsensical things that happen. You've just kind of lost your own argument there. Boy.
No, because that was great. The whole
drugging and marrying.
Yeah, that was amazing. At the time, I was like, "This is the greatest thing." Like, when I'd be watching that, and then you'd see people be like, "Oh, I'm just finding it so difficult to find love." As a kid, I'd be like, "Well, what you can do is you can drug them and then take them to Las Vegas and marry them against their will, and then just go along with it." I think in storyline though, Steph knew, and she'd basically been evil the whole time.
Oh, right, okay.
She'd done it to get back at Vince for Vince. Because Vince ended up being the higher power in the corporate ministry, which meant he was telling the ministry what to do, and the ministry at one point abducted and tried to make Stephanie McMahon Undertaker's bride. So in response, a couple of months later, to get back at Vince, she married Triple H. And then in real life did the same. But I can see
in your face, you're like, this is ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. It's how life works. So yeah, we lock up. Rock initially takes control, but then we get the first shenanigans of the match, and there are going to be plenty when Vince McMahon throws the Rock into the post when Shane McMahon's back is turned, because obviously Shane's the ref. I mean, I don't think Shane would have disqualified them even if he'd seen it.
No, I don't.
And also, if he had, Triple H would have retained.
This is one of the things with, like, one of the problems with guest referee matches. It's like what they pay attention to and what they don't. And then, I mean, like, surely if you want someone to win, you can probably change the rules as a referee however you see fit. So I don't know why they play up to some things,
especially
some things they don't.
If you're
why
then
the
baddie owns the company.
Yeah. Why then at certain points, like, it's obviously a big thing when Rock goes to try and pin Triple H, and then Shane doesn't do the count. It's like, obviously he's not going to do the count. And then why sometimes they do a count, but very slowly. Like, if you don't want someone to win, then
don't play with fire.
Yeah, it's
like, oh no, you proper knocked him out. I had to count the three.
It's like, what's going to happen, Shane? It's the conceit, Daniel, is stupid.
Well, I disagree. I found it magical. So Hunter, I'm calling him Hunter. Triple H takes control after this. Keeps trying to pin the Rock. Rock keeps kicking out. Vince is shouting at Shane. Getting shouted at by your dad on national telly. It's not good.
And it happens.
Count to three, Vince.
Countless times.
It's happened to all of us. We've all been shouted at by our dads on pay-per-view.
But, like, one of the things I wanted to bring up as something interesting, a cool spot early on, there's a suplex from Triple H to the Rock, and it just looks so good. There's something about it, and, like, I guess it's because they're all over 6 foot. They're both massive, and it just looks so much better than when you see a suplex now. And we've spoken about this before, how kind of the general height of wrestlers is kind of going down. Yeah, but it's just the size of them in a suplex with the crowd in the background looks massive. And I don't even know whether it's, to do with the outfits as well. I mean, they're both just in kind of like the trunks and the knee pads. So you see how well built these guys are. And it's a work of art. It really is. Vince was right. These days, it's full of vanilla midgets. We need to get back.
That was Kevin Nash who said that, not Vince.
Kevin Nash was right. It's full of vanilla midgets.
I mean, we're going to end up bickering, which brings me on to JR and King, who are bickering throughout this match. And it was great, just arguing over the slightest of things, and King saying some quite off-colour remarks about women, as he is prone to do, and JR just being like, oh, would you stop?
Yeah, the commentary in these, particularly going back to this, a particular King, is fascinating. But just one thing, and this happens when I watch old WCW matches as well. The amount that the commentators focus on specific injuries, and like in this time, there's only a couple of times, but they say that The Rock, it looks like he's knocked Triple H's teeth out. He obviously hasn't. Then both of them at certain points they're convinced that they've dislocated their shoulders, and then they just go back into matches. But like you watch other matches from around this era, and it's obviously to kind of drive the point home and kind of make it feel a little bit more tense and a little bit more dangerous. But you watch other matches this year, it's like, oh, he's probably broken his arm. It's like, he probably hasn't.
Yeah, they would stop.
Yeah, that would be... if it was a bad break, you'd see the break. Like, come on, guys.
They would wail out in pain.
Yeah, for something that is such a wet, they do like to focus on the injury detail. And as someone who's incredibly squeamish, I don't like it.
I apologise on JR's behalf, my uncle, Jim Ross. So Ross eventually gets back into it because he is a fighter. He starts fighting back, and we get that classic sort of double clothesline spot where they both go for the clothesline and knock each other out. Shane is sort of counting, trying to get Triple H up. They both get up, but then Rock is hit by Vince McMahon with the title. Some more just dastardliness, but The Rock still kicks out even though it's a fast count. Makes Triple H look quite weak, because then after this it goes sort of back and forth again, and then Rock gets the DDT, but Shane refuses to count, as you mentioned earlier, sort of shaking his head, no, Rocky.
And The Rock is surprised.
Yeah, it's like, Dwayne, I think you knew what was happening, It's like, Shane, I thought
this isn't a fair fight.
What happened? So, being so aghast, The Rock then takes it upon himself to punch Shane McMahon with such ferocity that Shane falls out of the ring. Rock goes to sort of beat up Shane some more, but Triple H attacks him from behind. And then we get the appearance of the Spanish announce table, or as you could say, Mesa de Anuncios en Español.
See.
So Trippers goes for the pedigree on The Rock to the table. The Rock fights back. I think there may have been a low blow involved there. He's got Triple H ready to rock bottom through the table, and then Shane decides, inexplicably I would say, to stand on the table and have a go at The Rock, saying, no, don't do that. I wouldn't like it if you did that. And then it's a double rock bottom through the table.
Now, what are the rules in this match? Is it ever said that it's no DQ?
It's not no DQ.
Well, exactly. So what with the champion's advantage? Shane could have called for a disqualification at several points throughout this match, and Triple H would have kept the title.
I mean, Shane just wasn't thinking.
He was not. Again,
that's why Steph's the favourite.
Yep.
So they get back into the ring. Vince jumps in, starts sort of having a go at The Rock, saying, you're a prick, I don't like it. But then The Rock sort of gets up, turns around, and is like, I'm going to fucking have you, you bastard. But then Triple H with a low blow and the pedigree. But there's no ref. Who's going to make the count? Out come the Stooges, Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe. But The Rock kicks out at 2. The Stooges then beat up The Rock. Vince with a steel chair, and he hit The Rock with such momentum and force that he fell over after hitting The Rock with a steel chair. Vince is not a graceful man. He keeps wanting to put himself in the ring and doing physical things, and he fails a lot of the time. Of course,
yeah,
when he at the Royal Rumble when he tore both his quads after running down the ring and just sat on the floor having a go
on the floor, telling them off.
Yeah,
like proper Phil Brown style.
Yeah, it's mad. Like, could you imagine being at work and your boss comes down and going, and they've torn both their quads and just sat on the floor going, "I'm upset with your work performance."
What I liked about this and all the chair shots is, headshots. Don't see enough of those these days. Yeah. What with the whole health and safety.
For a good reason, it'd be. So, obviously, watching this on the network, there was a match that was just referred to as Chris Jericho fight for the Intercontinental title because his opponent is not mentioned anymore, and that man took a lot of chair shots to the head. So we've got this, The Rock is down, the Stooges are out there, Triple H is out there, they've got the steel chair. They're mercilessly attacking The Rock, and then the glass breaks.
I was going to say, I've got a glass bottle here. I could have smashed that.
Don't smash it. Yeah, that would be silly.
There's plenty of cola-based drink in there already, so no, I won't do that.
Anyway, as I was saying, Stone Cold is back. The rattlesnake is back, as JR said. So he's out there with a steel chair. He twats Triple H, who runs out to sort of greet him. Maybe Triple H was going to say hello and be nice, but no, straight away, Stone Cold, twat. Out comes Patterson, twat. Briscoe gets twatted. Shane gets twatted. Vince comes out, bang. And then he does the classic, Stone Cold, when someone's down, getting in their face, I'm Stone Cold, motherfucker. I don't think he said motherfucker. Triple H comes back, he wants some more, he gets twatted again.
You're using the word twatted, but he really does twat everyone.
Yeah.
That is the best word for it.
He's been out since November. At this point, it's late April. So, that's a lot. That's 5 months of pent up wanting to twat people, and he just goes for it. He leathers them, you could say.
The things on this, I don't know, obviously, at the time, how much it was kind of a concern, but it's something that JR refers to, the dirt sheets at the time, saying that Stone Cold is going to come back, but he's going to be on the side of the McMahons. He mentions that early on as well. So it's knowing that Stone Cold might come back, but also not knowing if he's going to return as a face or anything like that. So that, that's another layer to this story, what makes it even more great when he's twatting people.
Rock and Stone Cold famously never got on. They fought each other at WrestleMania 15 the year prior, so they weren't the best of mates. So people were like, is Austin really going to be in Rocky's corner? But yeah, I just remember. So when I started watching wrestling, Austin wasn't there. It was that period between November and this Mania. So I only knew of him as the people speaking about him. He was kind of like a mythical legend because people spoke about him being this big thing, but I'd never seen him. And I just remember when it was announced he was coming back, being like, "Oh my god!" I think me and my brother got up and hugged, which is very sad.
That's a lovely thought.
It's quite cute when you can think we were kids, but I still do that now with Wrestling Reaction. Like when the Hardy Boys returned, I remember being in a bar in Birmingham and everyone just hugging.
What about when Roman Reigns came back after injury?
So everyone gets whacked with a steel chair, apart from the only heel not to get hit with a steel chair is Stephanie McMahon, because maybe they thought the image of Stone Cold hitting a woman with a steel chair would look bad, but it was something they did do a year later when he assaulted Lita.
And again, we've already had Trish Stratus be powerbombed through a table.
Exactly, yeah.
So all bets are off, guys.
But as an aside from that as well, keeping on the general topic of women being beaten up by men in wrestling, which is a lovely topic. The WrestleMania 31, 32, 33, The Rock argues with Stephanie McMahon. He's like, I'd never hit a woman, but I've got someone who does, and he brings out Ronda Rousey. But The Rock would hit women. He's hit her. He has hit Stephanie McMahon at WrestleMania 16. He peopled elbowed her, and everyone loved it. How times have changed. So yeah, we need someone to take out Stephanie McMahon, and out comes two of the most charismatic people in the world, Linda McMahon and Earl Hebner, the sort of big face referee, and Linda just twats Stephanie with the same ferocity that Stone Cold took out all those people.
It's the most weak-ass push of anyone I've ever seen. And, you could tell, I think it must be because, Stephanie's in, massive heels because she goes straight down. It's just but a tap, and she's completely floored.
A slight gust would have sent her flying.
It's so funny. Linda just looks so awkward.
Yeah, she's I don't want to be here.
I know I'm a part of this family, but...
No. I've got aspirations to run for office. I don't want to be caught up in this shit. But then we get Triple H, he picks up the chair, he's ready to hit The Rock, but no, spinebuster, people's elbow. In comes Earl. And then 1, 2, 3. If you smell a new WWF champion, The Rock.
Now.
Okay, you have a few points.
At this point, Earl Hebner, and it's mentioned at various points from commentary, he is kayfabe, but fired. Now, just because he comes out to the ring wearing a referee's uniform, he's still fired. Therefore, the result of this match should be void. It's like saying if I went to a hospital dressed in a nurse's outfit, I'm not an. Several times, and not once has anyone believed that I am a nurse.
That's because you
don't get your job back by just coming to your place of work in the uniform and say 1, 2, 3. No. Now,
well, I would counter that by saying that Linda is on the board of the WWF, so she could have very easily hired Earl back.
Well, I don't know how the politics of their hiring and firing policy work, but can Linda just take it upon herself? Because I assume she would have to run this past the rest of the board. And I think what we've gleaned from the entertainment provided from Backlash 2000, the rest of the board are not too keen on getting Rocky to win this match.
Well, from what kayfabe-wise, Linda was always quite powerful, corporately. If Vince got too out of hand, she'd just come in and be like, no, 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 and then sort of help the faces out.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'll allow it. I won't write in and call for avoiding just yet. We've explained my other kind of key question was obviously Austin then comes out in the bus, and I had no idea what the bus was there for, but we've gone through that. The bus is fine. Sorry.
In the notes here, you put the People's Elbow as a stupid finisher.
The People's Elbow is a stupid finisher.
It's cool.
I mean, it's very charismatic and it looks great, but in terms of the actual damage it does, I would argue it looks pretty weak. One thing people always say on the topic of weak finishers is that Hulk Hogan's leg drop is like a really weak finisher. If someone just jumped up and landed on me with their legs, I think that would hurt.
Of Hogan.
Yeah.
It would hurt. But equally, I would say The Rock, if he builds up that momentum from his running and jumping, and then he goes down, elbows you right in the sternum, that's going to hurt. You wouldn't want it to happen to you, would you?
I mean, it'd be a good moment. If I was in a sold-out arena and I had to take a People's Elbow, I think I would. I'd feel I've done pretty well for myself. But not just in a bar.
Yeah. It's just like having an argument with someone. Spine bust. Oh, God. I've been having an argument with Dwayne The Rock Johnson this entire time. Watching this match, one thought I really had was that I couldn't see how anyone would not enjoy this. That's what I was thinking at the time. Obviously, I've got the nostalgia and admittedly already liking this match, but it was the kind of thing I was thinking, you could show this to someone who wasn't into wrestling and I think they would enjoy it. Now, as someone that didn't grow up with this Rock and Austin WWF Attitude Era mindset, what were your thoughts?
I think in terms of just the quality of the match, I don't think there's that much there. It's a couple of cool, fun spots. But for the most part, it's just a beatdown of The Rock. And,
but in a cool way.
A slightly cool way. And I think because I'm not someone who was that familiar with the story going into it, and because you don't get the same kind of, as you do with a match now, you get that full package of the whole storyline, what's occurred before this. Watching it without all of that context, it's just a couple of cool key spots and Stone Cold comes back for a pop. Not much really happens other than that.
You are wrong.
Why?
Lots happen. There's a table spot.
There's the table
spot.
Getting
pushed over by a mom. There's Stone Cold twatting people with chairs. There's the crowd is just electric. When Stone Cold comes back, everyone loses their shit.
You're more excited about the crowd. And again, the big moment of this, the big moment of this is Stone Cold coming back. It's not the match between Rock and Triple H.
Yeah, but the match
that is just a side.
The match
and in terms of in-ring action, there's that suplex, there's a spine buster, there's the People's Elbow, there's a DDT, there's a pedigree, and that's about it. There's no kind of long.
That's all you need. That's
You
all
get
you need.
more actual wrestling from Triple H versus Scott Steiner.
You do not. That was fucking awful. But yeah,
I think you're appealing on this to nostalgia and the kind of the pop factor. That's what you like about this, rather than the actual content. You're just waiting for the moments to cause the pop.
I suppose when you know what's coming, it kind of you get excited. But yeah, you disproved my theory that I thought anyone in the world would enjoy watching that because
It's fine. It's enjoyable. It's just not a great wrestling match.
Yeah, but what is a great wrestling match? Oh, this is
not this.
Okay. But for example, like you had Benoit Jericho earlier in the night, which would have been like a big technical masterpiece, but there wouldn't have been that much story into it. So would that have been as good as this? I say no.
No, and I think you're right. And the most important thing about wrestling is obviously the story. But when you've not followed this storyline going up for weeks and just view it in isolation, I guess it's difficult to kind of convey that and also then really give a toss about the actual action that's happening.
Well,
but I did enjoy it. I'm not saying I hated every single moment of this. I just think it's
not
a bit,
Steiner.
It's not Steiner. But it's like, the match that we watched last week was obviously had the story, but then the actual quality of the match itself was amazing as well. Like there's nothing about that isn't just.
So you preferred Bailey Sasha to?
Yeah, 100%.
You libturd.
I'm just woke.
Yeah, I just preferred the women's match. No, that's fair. That's interesting, and it's something I will think about and reflect upon.
But it does raise choices. An interesting philosophical question. What's more important? Is it wrestling? Is it the storylines going into it? Is it having a really good mixture of both?
I think the mixture is the aim. But if you're going to prioritise one for the other, for me, it would be the story. But speaking of story, what happened next? Well, I'll tell you. So after this big moment of The Rock finally winning the title, he then lost it 3 weeks later at Judgment Day back to Triple H in an Iron Man match with special guest referee Shawn Michaels, where Shawn Michaels got knocked out. It was 5-all in the Iron Man match, and then The Undertaker returned, chokeslammed and tombstone Triple H. Shawn Michaels saw this, and it was a no DQ match, and he was like, fair's fair, that's a DQ. So Triple H won the title. The Rock then won it back a month later at King of the Ring, and he goes for a lengthier reign, holding it till October, so a couple of months, for losing it to Kurt Angle, who got a lengthy run with the title, but then WrestleMania season was about to start, so they're like, okay, let's get the title back on The Rock. So no way out, a month before Mania, The Rock beats Kurt Angle again to go into Mania as the WWF champion. Meanwhile, Stone Cold returns, and he goes on his big investigation to find out who ran him over. So at the previous Survivor Series, there was meant to be a triple threat, Triple H versus The Rock versus Stone Cold for the WWF Championship. Stone Cold got ran over, and he was replaced by The Big Show, who also at this pay-per-view had been feuding with the Big Boss Man, who did steal his dad's coffin. So yeah, big investigation to find out who ran him over. It turns out it was Rikishi, and he did it for The Rock. He did it for the people. But he actually did it for Triple H, who told him what to do. So they had this chance to sort of build Rikishi into a big heel. He had, Haku stroke Meng coming to join Rikishi. So he could have built this like two sort of badass Samoans just doing what they want, hurting people. But then it just been, oh no, it was Triple H. It kind of sort of died down. And then Stone Cold sort of feuded with Triple H and Rikishi through most of the year before winning the Royal Rumble to set up this big dream match at WrestleMania X7, which is seen as like the pay-per-view of the Attitude Era. It's like the tentpole of what this sort of couple of years of wrestling was, facing The Rock, to the two biggest stars of the Attitude Era for the WWF title at WrestleMania. So, two biggest stars of the Attitude Era, The Rock and Austin. Who do you prefer? Going to have a little break and then have a masturbate.